My sister, she tries to ruin my wedding, but there's one little secret that she doesn't know. I know about her infidelity. Well, I also know that her fiance has no clue. So you know what I'm going to do, guys? I'm going to do something I should have done a long time ago. I'm going to finally shut her up. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. It's solid advice. But I think the universe took it too seriously on my behalf by making Mary my sister. I keep to myself a lot and I don't like rowdy relationships. Social anxiety gets the best of me most of the times when I talk, so I would often mispronounce words. You could say I was lucky then when I found the man who is the love of my life now. Or at least he found me. Well, I was trying my best to tell the barista that I wanted just a cup of coffee and not a cup of pee. Don't get me wrong, but the coffee looked like pee. And Mary almost destroyed the chance I had to being with him forever. But things worked out somehow since he initiated the conversation after Mary and I were leaving the place. I've come so far from that day and I'm about to get married. What I'm about to tell you is that my sister is trying to sabotage my wedding planning. Hey, my name's Megan. You would only find me talking about my mother and not my father as the parent in the story, because my father passed away a few months after I was born. I have no memories of him, except what my mother and Mary said in passing as I was growing up. I mean, no hard feelings, though you can't miss what you've never experienced. All my life, the family I've known as Mary and my mother, and I can't exactly say I had a happy childhood. Mary and I have never really been close. I think she hates the fact that she stopped being the only child after only 3 years of being born. Our relationship was strained from the start. It worsened as we grew older, and it got particularly horrible when my big sister, the one who was supposed to protect me from bullies in school, became the leader of the gang and picked on me horribly. She would throw my books in the bathroom floor and lie to our mother, saying that I was jumping in the puddle in the playground and no one used it anymore. To my surprise, our mother would not ask for my side of the story before grounding me for weeks on end. My sister is my mother's favorite child. Everyone knows this. She's always been on Mary's side from the get-go. See, you would think Mary was the golden kid, but she is our mother's favorite. I'm sure of it. Well, while we were growing up, Mary would always get her choice of cereal, while I was left to enjoy whatever she wants. She got to pick the restaurants we went to, the places we went on vacation, and even the shows that we would watch. It did not help that whenever Mary noticed I really liked something, she always wanted it for herself. A particular incident happened when we were teenagers, and that just sealed the whole deal. I was in junior high while Mary was in high school. We both were going to prom, and everybody knows that prom is just another way to show how good you taste in fashion. I had found this really a pretty prom dress, and told our mother that's what I wanted. She agreed and said that she would get it for me in a week before prom. Unknown to me, Mary saw the dress as well and overheard my conversation, and, well, Mary told Mother that she wants the exact same dress. She made sure to mention that she didn't want me to wear the same thing as her. When I found out, I was so furious that I lashed out at Mary for the first time in my life. I asked her why she always wanted what I liked. Mary's entitled response was that it was going to look better on her anyways. She also said all eyes were going to be on her instead of me, and in her words she said, "You can just wear something else. Megan, no one cares." I knew not to fight it anymore, and I just endured it till I left the house for college. And that was where I met Sarah, my best friend. Even though we were age mates, I felt like she was the big sister Mary should have been. She looked out for me every single time. And that's why I didn't even think about it before making her my maid of honor at my upcoming wedding. Mary became incredibly jealous of the fact that I've offered Sarah such an important role at the wedding, while I've not even asked Mary to get involved in the planning. I mean, why would I? Right from the time I told my family the wedding date and started planning, Mary has grown incredibly hostile towards me. Maybe she's angry and envious of the fact that I was getting married before her, even though she has been engaged to Ryan for 2 years. According to her, Ryan would rather elope than spend money they don't have on Mary's dream wedding. And let us be honest, Mary has a really expensive taste. She even suggested a loan for the wedding. I mean, that's her life, but I've begun to get really tired of her attitude towards my wedding. I'm not the reason why she's not getting her dream wedding, yet she's chosen to be critical of everything about my wedding. The wedding plans would have gone smooth if it had not been for her constant criticism, which have only frustrated me even more. When she saw the wedding invitation, she said things like, "If it were my wedding, it would have gotten golden ribbons instead of silver." And I feel like I would have done it better if it was my wedding, she'd say. Well, that's not all. She said the venue was far too small and nowhere close to lavish enough. She said my choice of bridesmaids was horrible. These people are my friends and Sarah approves of them too, and I don't see why I should pay attention to the words of somebody who obviously doesn't want the best for me. Judge me if I'm being a bad person for this, but Mary really should not be talking about a wedding when she has this huge mess that she's hiding. So, we lived in this neighborhood until I was 10, and it would have been a good place if my sister's constant bullying had not tainted the days there. You could play with the neighbors and ride bikes all along the street without being scared of the accidents or getting lost. Our next-door neighbors have a son named Smith, who used to hang out with my sister a lot after school hours. It made sense because birds of a feather flock together, and Smith was very much like Mary. He was a bully, and the two of them would intentionally trip up kids during, their ride to home. They did it to me too, but I was used to it by then, and when we moved away to a different place, we stopped talking to our neighbors. Or at least I thought all of us had stopped. It wasn't until almost 10 years after that I found out that Mary had kept communicating with Smith. They were doing everything, they weren't just texting and calling. I'm talking everything. I found out that Mary's been sleeping with Smith for more than 5 years. What's funny is that Ryan and Mary started dating 6 years ago. It didn't take much time for me to just go and figure out that Mary was cheating on her fiancé. I mean, come on. I know that Mary is not the best person, but infidelity? I didn't expect it, so are you still wondering how I found out? Again, judge me, but what the way I found out wasn't exactly right. I was trying to get back at Mary for telling Mother that I went out to a party when I was home on break for college. Again, our mother did not wait for my side of the story before yelling at me for being wayward. I could see Mary smiling with satisfaction while I was being screamed at. I decided I had enough and wanted to talk to her as well. The easiest way to snoop through her phone and find something that could get her in trouble with our mother. I didn't realize that I was going to find was stuff that was going to haunt me for a long time to come. I was looking through her phone while she was taking a shower when I found out that she's been hooking up with Smith for months. Well, Smith and Mary have decided to meet up at a bar to have some drinks together after she got, into her first big fight with Ryan. They ended up having too many drinks together and spent the night at Smith's house. In one of their text messages, Smith tells Mary to leave Ryan and be with him instead, but Mary is refusing. I should have said something then, but I didn't. I didn't want to be the villain and ruin their relationship, I knew it continued because I continued to check her phone and send the screenshots of their convos to me without her knowing. I know what I did was wrong, but I wanted to have something to hold over Mary in case she ever did something worse than all that she's been doing over the years. Mary moved in with Ryan a year later, guys. He's a nice guy, and it felt weird that I could not tell him anything despite knowing the truth, and I couldn't look at my sister the same way after that. My findings about Mary's infidelity happened some 4 or 5 years ago, and now I'm confronted with the whole thing again because Mary would not just let me be happy for once. After the wedding plans started, I noticed that my mother was not saying anything to stop Mary from constantly criticizing my decisions about my wedding, but I didn't read much into it. Mary has always been her favorite child, and I was used to being the one who had to take the short end of the stick. I didn't know it was going to become a problem until our mother began to bring up subtle suggestions about my sister being involved with the wedding planning. She suggested that I should put Mary in charge of the flowers. Then she said that it would be fun if we both take care of the first dress fitting for the bridal party. But there's no form of fun whatsoever whenever Mary and I are around each other, only tension that you can cut with a knife. I didn't want any more trouble, so I just gave in to her constant suggestions and reluctantly let Mary join in on the wedding planning. Before I did that, I told her I'd think about it, but deep down I knew I needed a fail-proof strategy to make sure whatever Mary was planning didn't work. Now, I don't know this, but with the way that she's been acting, I just assume that she's going to try to pull something crazy. And I don't trust my mother either. I will update you guys soon. Hey everyone, thank you for all your kind words and comments. I see comments saying that I was, right to not say anything to Ryan, but don't be so quick to commend me before you hear the end of my story. So, I ended the last post telling you that I gave in to my mother's suggestions, to include Mary into the wedding plans. But let me tell you what happened when I did that. I went up to Mary and asked her if she would like to help with the wedding planning, and you might be wondering why I asked her, even though I knew that she must have made our mother tell me to include her. Guys, it's quite simple. If I had said I was doing it because our mother made me, Mary's entitlement, and I mean it, entitled, would be shooting through the roof. Not that entitled Mary did not come out to play either. So I told her I didn't want her feelings left out and asked if she wanted to help finalize wedding plans. It's not like you don't need my help. Everything you and Sarah have been doing has been nothing short of shabby and poor. It was only a matter of time before you came to beg me to save your wedding, so it's not such a total disaster. Well, that's what Mary said with every bit of spite that she could muster. Well, I see, but you'll be helping on one condition. You'll be working together with Sarah all the time. And even to butter her up, guys, I said, I'm sure she could use your expertise. So, little did Mary know. Sarah and I have been talking ever since my mother brought up the suggestion to include Mary inside of the wedding plans. I know Mary really well. Out of spite and jealousy, I've seen Mary do things nobody in their right frame or mind should do. And I know that she may do something to ruin at least one part, if not all, of my wedding plannings. So I told Sarah to double-check everything. Mary says that she's taken care of it, and if Mary claims that lilies aren't available at the florist, then she would call again and again to see if it was really true. You're really only gonna get one wedding if you're in love like I am, and I want it to be perfect. And oh boy, was I lucky I took that extra precaution. The first task Mary had to do together with Sarah was to schedule a fitting for my bridesmaids and me. Mary wasn't a bridemaid for obvious reasons, and I think it was a mistake to put her anywhere near the fitting. My fiancé and I had one last meeting with the event planner when Sarah and Mary went to schedule the fitting. So, around an hour later, I get a call from Mary. So, I talked to the designer, and she said that she can only schedule a fitting 5 weeks from now. 5 weeks? The wedding's 3 weeks from now, I said, really worried. I know, I tried, but the dresses you want aren't available, and they won't be for quite some time. I somehow managed to catch the tone of Mary using it a long time ago when she said that she was going to be wearing the same dress I was in high school. So I just said, all right, thanks, and I hung up. Immediately, I suspected that she was lying, so I called up Sarah, and I was so right, guys. According to Sarah, Mary had told her to grab her a cup of coffee while she went to see the designer. By the time Sarah even got back, Mary claimed that she already had a date and informed me. So Sarah asked her, but she said that she had somewhere to be and that she should ask me. Since they came in separate cars, Mary got in and Sarah pretended to follow until Mary drove off. She immediately went back to see the designer, who said that she had not talked to anyone that day about a fitting or a bridal party. So Sarah immediately scheduled a fitting for 5 days from there. I was so furious when I got off the call with Sarah that I made up my mind to call Mary and yell at her. But I thought, why do that? When I could just, get the satisfaction seeing her face when we wear the dresses. And that's exactly what happened. We went from the fitting 5 days later, and thankfully everything was perfect. We left with the dresses that day and have them kept at Sarah's house until the wedding. But not before we took a few pictures and sent them to the wedding planning group to know what everybody thought about the dresses. I made sure I was in the same room with Mary before I hit send. I didn't need to look before I knew the groan of frustration coming from her. So she came up to me and asked, how are we able to get those dresses? Well, I just say, we got lucky. The designer called Sarah and said that they could actually squeeze us in. And the dresses were perfect. You should have seen them, girl. Well, I said all that, trying my best to stop my, face from showing such a win. She said a tight congratulations and just stomped away to somewhere else. Now, I just pray that things from here go as smoothly as this, because I have Sarah by my side and, I guess we'll find out, though. Update number 2. Party planning 1 week to the wedding. Hey guys, I'm back with another update. The bachelorette party was fixed to be 2 days before the wedding, and I wanted to have a different vibe from everything I've been seeing around me. So instead of just booking a few rooms at a hotel, I decided to go all out, plan a trip for myself and my friends. It wasn't any trouble because my fiancé and his family are well off, and I'm not doing bad at all for myself. However, I was surprised when my in-laws offered to foot the entire bill for the tickets. And I mean everything. They paid for the tickets in business class for my friends and me, and even gave me a credit card for any expenses that would pop up. I had no idea anyone could love me so much that I seriously just couldn't resist telling everybody what they did. So naturally, Mary knew. What I didn't expect was her level of delusion and entitlement. As we got closer to the wedding, our mother and Mary stayed in my apartment. As I walked through the door later that night, Mary did not wait for me to sit before demanding that I should pay for her ticket. You know what? I ignored her, because I was as shocked as her little level of entitlement. Mary repeated her demand again, and I recovered enough to tell her, absolutely not. Mary insisted, saying that I could at least pay for her tickets, especially since my in-laws were the ones footing all the bills. Well, I told her that they were only paying for tickets from the bridal party. My friends who were to be my bridesmaids and I, as well as a makeup artist, were the only ones they were paying for. I also let her know that I was paying for, accommodations. I thought that she would let it go or even offer to pay for a ticket herself. What I wasn't expecting was Mary throwing a tantrum and going so far as to go to our mother. All I started hearing from the guest bedroom was Mary yelling, "She hates me! She doesn't want me at the party! She doesn't want me there!" I was shocked, but I was too tired to deal with it anymore. So, around 30 minutes later, my mother came into the bedroom with Mary and asked if I really didn't want her there. I told her she should come. I wasn't stopping her from showing up, and I just would not foot the bill for her journey or anything else. I told her that she had to pay for her own ticket if she wanted to fly with us, and that's final. I told them goodnight and went to bed, and I could still hear Mary fuming in the guest room. And I knew that she was angry because neither she nor Ryan could afford the ticket, the fees, and to come to where I was. So it wasn't that I couldn't afford it. I just didn't want to pay for Mary, especially because of what she did during the fitting for the bridal party. But do you guys think that what I did was wrong? Not paying for her, I don't feel bad about it anymore. Maybe I'm heartless. Let me know. Update number 3. The bachelorette party 2 days to the wedding. I knew I was going to have fun regardless of whatever happened that day, and the universe wanted that for me as well. Maybe that's what the sun was doing when it was so warm, and the weather was beautiful. My friends and I did not waste time in boarding our way to the location for the party. I got an angry text from Mary saying she would not be coming to the location all by herself, and that it was all my fault. I refused to let that ruin my good mood, because I was sure Mom must be helping her out somehow, like always. So I wished her a safe journey and turned off my phone before chatting with Sarah. We got there in less than 3 hours and got to our Airbnb. It was so much fun laughing, dancing, planning out the night until Mary showed up sweating and fuming. We'd been at the Airbnb for about 5 hours before she got there. So we did sympathize with her a little before going back to our planning because I didn't really care that she was there until one of my friends suggested inviting her to join us right there at the club. So we did go ahead to invite her. She did agree to come, guys, by the way. We weren't expecting her to be so slow, though, since we all started getting ready at the same time. We waited for about an hour, but since she was taking too long to get ready, we left her and we went to the club. Can you blame us? Come on. Mary shows up an hour later, again furious that we left her. She began to shout at us for leaving, and at first I thought she was trying to make herself heard over the loud music, but as it turns out, she was having another one of her tantrums. She began screaming really hard and kept on flinging plastic cups at us. Eventually, the security noticed what was going on and tried to get her to stop. She would not listen, so they kicked her out, and we went back to our table and my phone started blowing up with text messages from Mary, saying I was a bad sister for letting the security guard kick her out, and I didn't reply. But she called me barely a minute later after screaming at me and demanded that I drive her back to the Airbnb, and I simply said, "And why would I do that?" She said that she used the remaining cash that she had to call herself an Uber on her way since I left her at the Airbnb earlier. I was going to offer to loan her the money, but she kept screaming and screaming about how I was a horrible person and selfish, and I just decided I wasn't going to let her ruin my night anymore. I hung up on her, screaming, and just enjoyed the rest of the night with my friends. By the time we got back to the house in the morning, Mary was all packed up and putting her bags in the car. She took one look at my friends and me, with a very hateful one at that, and drove off. Well, now I'm gonna be back for the wedding, and I don't have to care for Mary's tantrums, because she's been doing all of this her whole life, and I just feel like I'm done with her. Update number 4, the wedding. Hey, pretty people, I'm back with yet another update. Since I was just going about and, finalizing up, well, everything at the wedding day was such a rush. I woke up feeling the most excited and nervous I've ever been in my life. I was really looking forward to spending the rest of my life with somebody I truly loved. But at the same time, I wanted the wedding to be perfect. While I was scrambling to make sure everything was going okay, I bumped into Mary in the venue hallway. I wasn't expecting to see her, but I was even more surprised when she said that she was sorry about the tantrum. The one that she threw at the club the other night. I told her it's okay, but I didn't really believe her. However, I didn't really have the time, as Sarah had just told me that one of my bridesmaids had a wardrobe malfunction. We went to help, and in a few minutes, all that was left was helping me get ready for my big day. So the first scream I heard was from Sarah, as she entered the bridal suite. My heart skipped a beat as I rushed into my room. I was shocked to find out that there was wine stains all over the beautiful gown that was hanging on the wall. Because it was white, I first thought it was mine. Then I remembered my dress was locked up in the wardrobe for safekeeping. The one on the wall was the props that the photographer we had hired used to set up for the photos. And then I remembered when I bumped into Mary that she was holding a bottle of wine and heading in the same direction as the bridal suite. She did it. She thought that it was my wedding dress, and she thought that she ruined it. I was so livid that I could not stop shaking. It was at this moment that what I've been hiding for years suddenly burst in. I was so sick and tired of Mary's selfish and evil attitude that I decided I was going to get my revenge on her. I called quickly down enough and apologized to the photographer. Then I told everybody in the room to say a word to anyone, not even to my fiancé. Don't say it. I didn't quite catch the look on Mary's face when I was walking down the aisle when my fiancé, in my sparkling stain-free wedding gown. But Sarah filled me in right before the reception. She said Mary looked like she was going to explode any minute. Well, that was good enough for me. But it wasn't good enough. At the reception, after my first dance with my husband, our friends and family were asked to give us the wedding presents that they brought for us. There were so many marvelous things, but as expected, nothing from Mary. Ryan even gave me a really nice wristwatch when Mary wasn't looking. He made me promise not to tell her that he did so. I almost gave up on exposing Mary because Ryan obviously loved her so much, but I knew it wasn't going to be fair for him. When Mary finally walked up to the table, it was with so much envy and jealousy. She moved closer to my ear and said, "This should have been my wedding, not yours." And I went cold with anger. At that point, I knew there was no going back from what I was going to do, and I was determined to do it with absolutely no regret, so I asked to make a toast. Everywhere went quiet, save for a few happy murmurs. I raised my glass and looked dead straight at Mary, who was now standing at the corner of the hall with Ryan and a smirk on his face. I cleared my throat and repeated loudly for everybody to hear me. "I would like to make a toast." And continuing with that same voice, I said, This is to Mary, my wonderful, lovely sister, who tried her best to make sure I would have the most memorable wedding ever. Not in a good way. I didn't think my wedding was going to be the place I was going to tell her fiancé Ryan, such a good man, that she's been cheating on you with our childhood neighbor for the past few years, honey. Everybody was deathly quiet by now. Mary's face had drained of all its color, and it broke my heart to see Ryan look devastated. But I continued, Ryan, did you wonder where Mary always was going every Thursday afternoon? She says that she's having a doctor's appointment, or maybe even a beauty appointment, but she goes to spend time with Smith. It was only right for you to find out. I raised my glass one more time and took a swift drink and asked my husband, Honey, shall we go on to our honeymoon? He didn't think twice before he carried me out of the venue. I mean, you're wondering why I didn't stay clear of the mess. It wasn't mine to clean up. The last thing I saw was Sarah winking at me and Mary yelling at me it wasn't over. Wasn't it, though? Final update 3 weeks after the wedding. Hey, it's Megan again. I apologize for leaving you hanging for weeks. The honeymoon has been amazing, but now without a few things to tie up. I see many people asking me what happened after I left the venue, so this is a short update. After we left, Ryan broke up with Mary and told her not to come back to their apartment, which we later found out belonged to just Ryan. Mary had no choice but to move back to our mom's. Ryan had her belongings sent to the house and had stopped talking to Mary and my mother. He texted me to say thank you for letting him know and wish me a happy life. Guys, that was 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard from him since then, and Mary's now living with our mom. And while we're sending in the receipts for the pictures, the photographer informed us that Mary would be paying for the dress that she ruined. She eventually admitted to it, and everybody knew that she did it, and the photographer demanded that she pays the bill. As for my mom, she is not speaking to me after what happened. Sarah told me that she kept on saying that I embarrassed her. I don't care. However, as my husband and his family are showing me that I can be loved more than I was used to. Eventually she'll come around, and I also heard from Sarah that some of my aunties and cousins think that what I did was taking it too far, while others said I was justified in doing what I did. I may have told my sister's fiancé that she was cheating on him, and that did not have to be in front of everyone. Yes, I know, but she was the one being unfaithful while constantly sabotaging my wedding, wasn't she? Anyways, what do you guys think now that you've heard my story? Am I justified in getting my revenge and saving Ryan from a relationship full of lies?